Hi there, Algebra. It's our last full day of school for the year of 2013, and I'm thinking ahead to next year to you guys. So we're going to tape a little lesson here called the percent of change. It's pretty easy, straightforward. This should be pretty short. So the percentage of change is simply a ratio of the change of a number. Like let's say that we start off with 20. Maybe it's $20, and you put that in the bank, and at the end of a year, your bank pays you a lot of interest. So this is what you start with. And at the end of a year, you have $25 in the bank. You made $5 of interest. It doesn't really work that way, but you can dream. So this is going to be what's called a percent of growth problem. Or a percent of increase, because we've started with a certain amount and we end up with more. We end up with, if you can figure it out with this hard math, $5 extra. Well, the percentage of change, all we're going to do is we're going to take the amount that you have increased or decreased, and we're going to put that over the original amount. And then at this point, there's two different ways you can do it. The way your book likes to do it is to put it as a proportion. That's why it's right after the proportions chapter. So if we want to do this as a proportion, 5 over 20, again, the original amount and the change. And we're just going to simply make this a proportion out of 100 so that we know what percent. Because you know that the word percent literally means per or divided by centum or century. It comes from the words for 100. So it's x over 100. So remember what we did yesterday? We cross multiply. 5 times 100 is the same as 20 times x, and we'll end up dividing this by 20. Knock a 0 off, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. So you have a 25% increase in your bank account. Does that make sense? All right, so that's an easy problem. Another way to do it, honestly, the way I usually do it is not to make a proportion out of it. I simply take the fraction, and you guys have all learned, I hope last year, how to turn fractions into decimals. You simply divide the top by the bottom, and this would turn out to be 0.25. And then when you're at a decimal, it's very easy to change that into a percent. Simply move the decimal place over twice, and it turns out to be 25%. That's another alternate way to do it. The cool thing about math is you can turn out with the same answer, and you can really go different routes. It's a little bit like driving. You're going to your favorite restaurant, and you can take a shortcut, you can do a long way, and you end up at the same place to get a delicious French dip. Oh, sorry, talking about food. Okay. Let's do the opposite. Instead of percent of growth or percent increase, let's say that there was 20 people in my math class to start the year. And after the first test, there's only 18 left. Some people dropped out or stayed home, or I don't know. So in this case, if we subtract, we're going down by 2. I'll do it both ways again. This is going to be a percent of decrease now. Remember, you simply make a proportion out of it. -2, and this was our starting value, so -2 over 20 is the same as x over 100. Cross multiply, -200 equals 20 times x. We'll divide this by 20, and we end up getting -10. So it's a -10% growth, or another way to say it, that negative sign means it's a 10% decrease. The alternate way to do it again is to simply take the original fraction, turn it into a decimal, which is going to be -0.10. Turn that into a percent by moving this over twice, and we get a negative 10% growth. You can say it either that way, negative 10% growth or a 10% decrease. Both mean the same thing. Okay, so percent of change. Simply figure out what the difference is between your starting value and what you have at the end. Place that difference over the starting value. Turn it into a percent, sorry. And if the percent has gone up, then it's a percent of increase. If the percent's gone down, it's a percent of decrease. Okay, hope that makes sense.